Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hi, this is Nick Anastasiou, story editor on Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Bad Batch. And you are listening to Aggressive Negotiations.
You have indeed landed at Aggressive Negotiations, your stop in the Star Wars galaxy that is your gateway to all of the things that you wanted to ask, but maybe were afraid to, or maybe just never realized that other people out there are thinking them too. I'm Jedi Master John Mills. I'm a humble host here on Aggressive Negotiations, and joining me on this journey of discovery is the illustrious Jedi Master Matthew Rushing. Matt, we have one humdinger of a topic tonight that I can't believe we haven't hit on before. Are you ready to dive deep and really get at the core of a question that's never been answered in Star Wars lore?
Well, I totally am. I'm glad everybody's listening. Before we hit our topic, just to remind everybody, you can follow us over there on the old social medias like X, Twitter. We're at the Jedi Masters, the entire network at Join Nerd Party. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Nerd Party. We're on Instagram at the Nerd Party. TheNerdParty.com. You can find us as well with all the shows going on there on the network. So we hope everybody will join us there. So, John, what is this most excellent topic?
Well, I just finished rewatching Star Wars Rebels. It's my third view through, I guess, by this point or so. Just like a beginning to finish view through.
Yeah.
I was introducing my youngest to it, and she took to it. It's proven to be her gateway drug to Star Wars, finally. And so that's been a fun thing. But
I have you now.
Yeah, right. But that beautiful moment at the end where we get the little epilogue, the coda, where Sabine is narrating that, how things are after Ezra and Thrawn have disappeared with the Purrgil. And in that epilogue, she says the Empire never came back to Lothal, never acted in retribution for what had happened. Now, given that we know that Rebels ends one full year before the Battle of Yavin, the original Star Wars, I just wanted to ask, why do you think the Empire never came back and smashed Lothal?
So my first thought is that with Thrawn being a Grand Admiral and having his own fleet, that means that, he kind of has his own preview of what he wants to do and where he wants to go. And does that necessarily mean that he is always reporting in as to where he is and what he's doing and why? So I'm wondering, does Thrawn go to Lothal with his fleet and then he just disappears and nobody in the Empire really knows where or why? And then, of course, you think a year later, you have the first Death Star destroyed. And it does seem as though the Empire gets very fixated on destroying this rebellion. Mm-hmm. And so a lost Grand Admiral and, his own mini fleet doesn't seem to be the top on their priority list of, what to find. And so to me, that's the first thing that kind of pops into my mind as to why Lothal is safe. Also, Lothal also was the place where Thrawn was, doing his TIE Defender project, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yep. And that never took off with the Empire either. So it's like, I feel like the Empire just kind of chalks it up to, well, that was a loss. We move on, because it's like one Grand Admiral, we got dozens.
Okay. I mean, I would think that the Empire would have, the bureaucratic machine of the Empire would have been hardwired to punish a system that had gotten out of line as badly as Lothal did. Like in my head, they have a military that it wouldn't take tremendous effort for them to come back and smack Lothal around.
Sure.
Now, the counterpoint piggybacking off what you're talking about there, the Empire might have been afraid to come back to Lothal because their greatest strategist, their greatest tactician, their greatest Grand Admiral disappears.
Yeah.
And he's gone. And that's got to be terrifying. Like you could almost see a comedy routine of, oh, who's going to go find Grand Admiral Thrawn? Who's going to go to Lothal? No, I have an assignment. I can't go there. Oh no, my Star Destroyer is getting cleaned that day. I can't make it. But joking aside, you have something else, I think, because while you were talking, this sort of popped in my head. Let me ask you a series of questions here. The Empire is an extension of whose will? Of whose desires? Sidious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lothal happens. He's tried to bait Ezra into turning to the dark side.
That's true. Yeah.
And failed.
Yes.
And we can easily see that as that dysfunctional Sith thing where he sees Ezra as a potential way to destroy Vader, who's a disappointment as an apprentice, and take his rightful place. But then the Emperor realizes, especially after the Battle of Yavin, what does he realize? What does he find out? What do Vader and the Emperor find out?
Luke. Yeah.
Do you think it's as simple as Lothal was a loss, Ezra cost them Thrawn, the planet itself was not a great threat after that, and their focus simply was Luke. And so it wasn't worth their time. They had a better spend of resources.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because as you were saying that, I was like, well, that makes sense because, you know, what does Palpatine really care about? Palpatine's machinations are really all about him finding a way to keep his own power. And so therefore, yes, with Ezra gone and then Luke popping up, his goals do seem to shift in the sense of, I'm not here building the Empire anymore. I'm not even trying to maintain necessarily the Empire anymore. I'm trying to make sure that my reign lasts forever. And the best way to do that is through making sure that I have an apprentice that is better than Vader. And, you know, who knows where Ezra went? Who knows where Thrawn went? But it's not worth looking for him when I've got this other dude who is super powerful, and I know it, and I know their lineage, and this could be the guy. I mean, this could be, you know, Vader 2.0, and that's really what he wants. And so I think that really hits on something there as to why Lothal then is saved. And it also goes to show too, it's like by Ezra making the sacrificial choice, that is part of the salvation. Because if he was still there, I can't imagine Lothal survives.
They keep coming after him, and Yep. And additionally, I mean, let's layer this one on. What do they lose in the pursuit of Ezra? They lose that Jedi temple that was a doorway to the world between worlds, which we know Palpatine desperately wants to get into.
Yes, he does. Yep.
So maybe they look at it and, again, the Emperor runs the Empire. My lord, we have to go and punish Lothal. No, it's not worth our time. And it's literally not worth his time because the one thing he was looking for there is gone forever. Besides Ezra, even with Ezra out of the mix, there's no point. It's just over with. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's just as straightforward as Lothal just wasn't worth it. But let me layer one last question on then, and this is the part where if you've hung with us, I'm going to throw the controversial question. The Rebel Alliance has scored its first victory against the Empire in the title crawl of the original Star Wars, and then later in Rogue One, we see that victory.
Yeah.
Why does Lothal not count as the Rebel Alliance victory against the Empire?
I think it's a victory, but it's also a very small regional victory. You know, it's one planet, right? But the loss of the technological marvel that is the Death Star looms large, right? All pun intended.
Sure.
And so I think what we see is that the victory on Lothal does allow somebody like Hera then to be involved with the rest of the rebellion for the rest of the, its time. We know that Hera was at Yavin because Chopper was there, and so was the Ghost in Rogue One, and we heard her name being called. We know that she was all over the place, right? And makes it all the way past Return of the Jedi, and so I think in some ways, that probably would become a story that was told to people who are joining the rebellion, or maybe they would have heard about the victory on Lothal, right? And that would be something that then they would be hopeful for their own planet one day. Obviously, the baseline answer is because we didn't know until,
Right.
Right. But I do think Lothal becomes one of those stories then where people hear it and they're immediately drawn to the idea of if they can do it, then we can do it, but we do it together. Because that's kind of the story of Rebels, right? Is this band coming together and they defeat a larger force. That's what happens, obviously in all of the original trilogy movies and all of the stories we've read that take place in the original trilogy era. And so I think Lothal probably in the rebellion would have become a story told, especially since Hera becomes a major leader in it. And so,
yeah, I think it is as simple as that. It's that semantics thing, which Star Wars excels at. Yeah, from a certain point of view.
Right.
But I do think it boils down to something as simple as the Rebel Alliance proper did not send support to Lothal. You hit on it,
right.
I think,
Yep.
where it's a regional victory. So there were little pockets of resistance popping up everywhere, but there was a formal Rebel Alliance.
Right.
We never count any of Saw Gerrera's victories because he's not part of the Rebel Alliance. He's just Saw Gerrera doing his thing.
Yes.
And so, yes, I think it is, like you said, it's a regional victory. It's semantics. The Rebel Alliance proper. These were rebels, but it was not the Rebel Alliance. It was Lothal itself that was doing what needed to be done with a little assistance from the Force and some really awesome wolves. And one fantastic droid that I got to tell you, after this rewatch, as much as I love R2 and I will always adore R2, Chopper will forever hold a number one spot in my heart, at least for a time, because Chopper's pretty awesome.
The other, I think the cool thing about this is when you think about Lothal, you think about its place in the history of the rebellion. It does lead me to wonder, what are all of the other stories of the other regions, of the other people who end up joining the rebellion, who are able to be successful. Because Lothal is one small part of that story, right? They're one microcosm of the larger saga that's happening at that point. And I think that's a really neat thing. And it also just kind of reminds us of the fact that, in history, there are all of these, there are major events that happen, right? But when you read a history book, say, about World War II, or you read a history book about the American Revolution, or any of these things, right? Any of these major conflicts that have happened around the world, there are major events, but then there are all of the little events that lead to the major events. And they're just as important in the story as everything else. And so that's, I think, the beauty of that as well, is that it allows us to have explored one of the facets that went into beating the Empire. And it wasn't just, Luke destroying the Death Star or what Princess Leia did or Han did. It's all these other people, which I think is also the story that we're getting in Andor, right? And what we got in Rogue One. There are so many people that are involved in the defeat of the Empire, whose names we don't know and will never know in Star Wars. When we think of it as a true historical thing, which is, with Lucas, creating Star Wars as it was, as if, documentary type of filmmaking, like that. I think that's just really cool. And so I think it makes then, It makes it really neat, and I think of Rebels in the fact that it started off kind of, and it felt like very much a Disney mandated thing. They had their grip on it tight of what they wanted, and slowly but surely it gets turned into something that becomes pivotal and meaningful.
A core piece of lore.
Exactly.
It's an absolutely core piece of lore. And I couldn't be more delighted that if you had given me a time machine and you go back to when Rebels premieres, because I remember when it premiered, and you said, this is going to be somebody's gateway to Star Wars. This is what's going to help make them, even if it's a casual fan, a fan of some sort, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
I would have been so skeptical. I'm like, please, that's not even, for Pete's sake, like these characters, they're obviously just drawn from the original sketches and stuff like that. And no, I wasn't showing outward disrespect to Rebels on that level. I'm exaggerating for effect. But I think the simple fact that Rebels itself, which is a property, people might forget it, is a property that people were not in the fan base in love with at first. Yeah. Just like, while she's a treasured character now, people had a lot of trouble with Ahsoka and getting used to her at first. It's just, you just turning up the temperature just a little bit. You just let people get there. You show them the way with good storytelling and they'll get there. And I'm just delighted, actually, that this is a discussion about Rebels, because it's been a decade and here we are. We're talking about it because it winds up that it's peak Star Wars in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so grateful for it that in its 4 short seasons, it made this type of impact on the storytelling and the fan base, and then winds up opening everything up so that we can jump past Return of the Jedi to explore Ahsoka and the World Between Worlds and Anakin's ghost.
Yes.
I mean, come on. Yeah. All right, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just said it so well. And one of the things that I think we hit on so much in the show, and we do it on purpose, is because the animation is a core part of Star Wars storytelling, and it deserves more respect. Yep. It does not deserve to be the Rodney Dangerfield of Star Wars. And because it's not, because like you said, Rebels has added core parts of the saga. Clone Wars did that. Bad Batch has done that, and so these show, Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, these are all things to which are telling good, important stories, and it deserves our respect and it deserves our love. And so, here's to hoping that, we get more Star Wars animation, and that they finally give us the animation we don't have yet on home release in 4K. So
4K UHD discs, please. You know what? In fact, let me pitch this idea on our way out the door. Disney Plus, you want to win back a ton of subscribers? You get one free home video release in 4K each year. You give a little gift to people for being on there. Like, make it a certain tier where it's like, oh, you know what? You pay an extra $5. You're in this tier. The Star Wars fan club used to do that. I used to get little gifts in the mail every so often that were just like, hey, thanks for being a fan. It's like,
yep.
Well, gosh.
Maybe make it something that you can only buy through the Disney Plus store.
Exactly right.
So you got to be subscribed to be a part of the Disney Plus store. I'm just saying,
Well, just like that's how Target got my episode 2 soundtrack money.
Yeah.
there was a track, actually one of the best tracks from the entire score, the Factory.
Yep.
Adventure, like the score, the original score. It was on the Target edition of the soundtrack. And I was like, well, I love that track. Of course I'm going to buy that. I loved listening to it because kids, you couldn't always stream that easily. Just going to put that out there. It's true. It was very difficult. And don't come at me with that Napster nonsense. The compression rates were terrible on there. It's just dumb. But anyway, Matt, if people want to talk about anything from compression rates to their own thoughts about why the Empire left Lothal alone, where can they find you online?
Yeah, hit me up on social media. If I'm on the platform, you'll find me under the name Matt Rushing02. You also find me, of course, here on the network with a completed show called Owl Post about every single chapter of the Harry Potter series. You'll also find me over on the TFM network with the 602 Club, which is a general geek show talking about all of the franchises we love, and a lot of great Star Trek talk over there as well. So I hope that you will look that up over at trek.fm. But John, if people wanted to catch up with you and see how you're doing and maybe, how your Lothal cat is doing, your Loth cat, where can people find you?
Loth cats are awesome, but I can tell you that my daughter and I both love Loth wolves too. I really,
yes.
I want a Loth wolf. Don't want it to bite me though. A little scared of that part of it. But you can find me out there musing about such adorable creatures and powerful creatures as Kessel Junkie on your social network of choice. I'm not on many of them. Just look for me. If I'm there, love to talk to you. And of course, you can find me here on the network where I am one of 3 hosts on a show called House Lights, where we look at the work of directors. And sometimes we torture each other with directors that we don't all love, but we also delight each other with directors that we learn to love along the way. So why don't you join us over there? We have a lot of fun. But Master Rushing, I got to tell you, I have found that the Temple archives have actually located 4K discs of the original episodes of That's Just Palpatine, the hit comedy show. So let's go spin that player up. I think it's time to close these negotiations.
John, negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.